Hey, Kate, thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
Always fun to be here.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the world of AI, artificial intelligence. And we've got a research paper that really digs deep into like the fundamentals of what it is and also like all the amazing ways it's being used. So we're going to pull out the key insights so that our listener can really grasp this fast moving field without like needing a computer science degree.
That's the goal, right? AI is everywhere, so everyone's trying to figure it out.
Exactly. So first things first, what is AI at its heart? Like, what is the basic definition?
Well, it as the science and engineering of making intelligent machines,
Mhm.
especially intelligent computer programs.
Okay.
But, it's not just copying how humans think,
Right.
it's using computers to achieve intelligence in its own way.
So it's not necessarily mimicking our brains neuron for neuron,
Exactly.
but what would you say is like the real core of it then?
Well, it's the study of computations that allow for perception, reason, and action. Hmm.
So in other words, it's giving machines the ability to like sense the world around them, figure things out, and then actually do something based on that.
Sense, think, act.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Now, why is AI such a big deal right now? What's driving all this interest?
I think the paper hits the nail on the head when it talks about the massive explosion of data.
Mm.
We've got so much data coming from everything, like smartphones to scientific experiments.
Right.
It's just way too much for humans to process on our own.
Hmm.
And, AI is stepping in to help us make sense of it all.
The paper makes a pretty bold statement about that, saying that artificial intelligence forms the basis for all computer learning and is the future of all complex decision making.
Absolutely.
And it points to some key terms we should understand, like machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, natural language processing, NLP, and knowledge based systems.
Right. We'll be unpacking all of those.
Let's start with machine learning. What is that in a nutshell?
Imagine you're trying to teach a dog a new trick,
You don't program every muscle movement right.
right?
The dog learns through experience, through rewards.
Yeah.
That's essentially what machine learning is. You give the computer data and it learns from that data to get better at a task over time.
So it's not like we're coding every single step.
Not at all. The computer's figuring it out on its own.
And the paper mentions a few different types of machine learning, right?
Yeah, there are three main types that it talks about: unsupervised learning, supervised learning, and reinforcement learning.
Okay, let's break those down. What's unsupervised learning?
So in unsupervised learning, you give the machine a bunch of data, but you don't give it any labels or instructions.
Mhm.
It has to figure out the patterns on its own. It's like giving someone a basket of fruit and asking them to sort it without telling them what each fruit is.
Okay, so it's all about finding patterns.
Yeah.
What about supervised learning then?
In supervised learning, you give the machine labeled data. So it's like showing it pictures of cats and dogs and telling it which is which.
So it learns from examples. And finally, what is reinforcement learning?
Well, imagine a robot trying to navigate a maze.
Okay.
In reinforcement learning, the robot learns by trial and error. If it takes actions that lead it closer to the exit, it gets a reward.
Mhm.
But if it bumps into walls, it gets penalized. So over time, it learns to maximize its rewards by taking the best actions.
So it learns through feedback.
That's the basic idea.
Got it. Now let's move on to something that feels very familiar to all of us. NLP, natural language processing. We use this all the time.
All the time. Every time you talk to your smart speaker or use Google Translate, you're using NLP.
So basically, it's the bridge between human language and computers.
Exactly. The paper breaks down the process. It starts with capturing audio. That audio is converted to text. Then the computer processes that text, trying to understand the meaning, the intent. And sometimes it even translates it into another language.
And finally, it generates a response,
Mhm.
sometimes in text, sometimes in audio.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
The paper gives a few more like everyday examples of NLP. Can you walk us through some of those?
Yeah, it mentions those automated phone systems we all love.
Right.
The IVR systems in call centers.
Interactive voice response systems, right?
Yeah, they try to understand what you're asking, sometimes with varying degrees of success.
Sometimes it feels like they're not really listening at all.
Right. And then there's language translation apps like Google Translate.
Super useful.
Yeah, instant translation between languages. And even grammar and spell checkers use NLP to analyze your writing.
Right. Which we definitely rely on.
Yeah.
But the paper also mentions why NLP can be kind of tricky for AI.
Right. Yeah, it's because human language is so complex.
Right.
We use things like sarcasm and metaphors, idioms,
Right.
And context plays a huge role.
Yeah.
So it's not always straightforward for computers to interpret.
It's very nuanced.
Yeah, and the paper points out that those nuances are a real challenge for AI.
For AI to really truly understand language like we do. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about automation and robotics. It seems like AI is really key to taking over a lot of those really repetitive tasks that we humans do.
Absolutely. The paper really emphasizes that the main goal of automation is to handle those boring tasks that are prone to human error.
Right.
Think data entry, assembly line work.
Mm-hmm.
And the paper talks about how techniques like machine learning and neural networks and even something called graphs are being used to build really sophisticated automation systems.
Gives a pretty interesting example, something that we all kind of have a love-hate relationship with, KPTCHA.
Oh, yeah, those distorted letters and numbers you have to type to prove you're not a robot.
Right.
That's actually a form of AI-powered fraud prevention.
That's fascinating. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, and then there's robotic process automation, or RPA.
Okay.
That's where software robots are used to automate those high-volume tasks that are, done over and over again.
Hmm.
And the really cool thing is that these RPA systems can actually adapt to changing situations.
So they're not just robots stuck in a loop.
No, they can learn and adjust.
They can learn and adjust. That's great.
Mhm.
Let's talk about machine vision now.
Right.
How does AI actually enable computers to see?
It's like giving computers a set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The paper describes the process, cameras capture the images, then those analog signals from the camera are converted into digital data.
So it has to be translated.
Right. Then the digital data goes through something called digital signal processing to enhance and extract features from the image.
Okay.
And then finally, AI algorithms come in to analyze and understand that visual information.
So it's a whole chain of steps from capturing the light to actually interpreting what's in the image.
Yeah.
What are some of the key things that the system has to be able to do? Like, what are the key capabilities?
The paper highlights two things: sensitivity and resolution.
Okay.
Sensitivity is the ability to detect very weak signals. Like, imagine a security camera that can pick up movement even in very low light. And resolution is all about distinguishing fine details.
Okay.
So a high-resolution medical scan, for example, would allow doctors to see subtle anomalies.
And what are some of the areas where we're really seeing machine vision making a big difference?
Well, the paper mentions signature identification in banking to verify checks,
Okay.
pattern recognition in manufacturing to spot defects. And probably one of the most impactful areas is medical image analysis, where AI can help doctors identify diseases in X-rays and MRIs and other scans.
That's really powerful. Okay, let's move on to knowledge-based systems.
Okay.
Sounds like this is all about like codifying expertise.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like capturing the knowledge of an expert and putting it into a computer system.
Mm-hmm.
The paper defines a knowledge-based system as a computer system that's designed to give advice or solutions in a specific domain, using a knowledge base that's been built by human experts.
Okay.
And a key part of this is the separation between the knowledge base, which might be rules or examples, and the inference engine, which is the part of the system that actually uses that knowledge to draw conclusions.
So it's like having an expert's decision-making process in a computer.
Right.
That's really cool. Now, we can't talk about AI without talking about neural networks. They seem to be getting a lot of attention these days. What's the basic idea behind them?
Well, the paper describes neural networks as being inspired by the structure of the human brain.
Okay.
So you have these interconnected neurons that are organized in layers,
Mm-hmm.
and these artificial neurons are actually pretty simple processing units.
Okay.
But it's the connections between them and the weights associated with those connections that determine how the network processes information.
Okay, so how do these networks actually learn?
They learn by adjusting those weights.
Okay.
So during training, you feed the network a lot of data with inputs and desired outputs.
Mm.
And a learning algorithm, the paper specifically mentions backpropagation.
Okay.
That algorithm tweaks those weights so the network gets better at producing the right output.
So it's like the network's learning from its mistakes.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. The paper really goes deep on the applications of AI, and it's pretty incredible how many different areas it's touching.
It's mind-blowing. The paper makes it clear that AI is becoming crucial in just about every industry you can think of.
Yeah, it talks about how AI is being used to tackle some really big challenges.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the sectors. Okay, let's start with astronomy.
In astronomy, AI is helping to analyze huge amounts of data from telescopes. which helps scientists understand the universe better,
Right.
like discovering new planets.
Yeah, that's huge. What about healthcare?
Oh, healthcare is being transformed by AI.
Really?
AI can help doctors make faster and more accurate diagnoses
Wow.
by analyzing medical images and patient data.
Okay.
And it might even spot things that human doctors miss.
That's amazing. What about in the gaming world?
AI is used to create those really smart opponents in strategy games like chess.
So you can have a more challenging game.
Yeah, it's like playing against a grandmaster in your living room.
Okay, what about finance?
Finance is using AI in so many ways,
I can imagine.
like automating tasks, powering customer service chatbots,
Right.
even making trading decisions in the stock market.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Okay, what about data security?
That's a huge one. AI is being used to find software bugs and detect cyber attacks.
Okay,
So it's helping us stay safer online.
right. What about social media?
Social media platforms use AI to manage all that user data.
Right.
They can identify trends and personalize content recommendations.
Mm-hmm. What about travel and transport?
Travel companies use AI to power those recommendation systems for flights and hotels,
Right.
and also to optimize routes for deliveries. And there are even AI chatbots for customer service and travel.
Okay. The automotive industry is another area that seems to be really impacted by AI,
Huge impact,
like beyond just those virtual assistants in cars now.
right?
But I'm thinking about self-driving cars.
Yeah, that's where AI is really driving innovation.
Mm-hmm.
AI algorithms process all that sensor data to navigate the roads and make driving decisions.
It's pretty wild to think about. Okay, what about robotics?
Well, AI is giving robots brains,
Okay.
allowing them to learn from experience,
Mm-hmm.
interact with humans more naturally,
Yeah.
perform more complex tasks.
Really? So beyond just those pre-programmed actions,
Absolutely.
the paper also mentions entertainment, but it doesn't go into too much detail.
Yeah, but think about things like personalized movie recommendations on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
or AI being used to create special effects.
Right. Okay, cool. What about in agriculture?
Agriculture is using AI for precision farming.
What does that mean?
So, analyzing data from sensors and drones to optimize things like irrigation and fertilization.
That makes sense.
Ultimately, it helps farmers get better crop yields.
Okay. E-commerce.
Online shopping relies heavily on AI for personalization.
Right.
Those recommendations you get for products you might like.
Mm-hmm. That's all AI.
Okay. And last but not least, education.
Education has the potential to be revolutionized by AI.
Okay.
We could see personalized learning experiences, AI tutors,
Really?
automated grading.
That would be great.
Yeah, lots of possibilities.
Wow, that's a really broad range of applications.
It really is.
And the paper goes on to highlight some even more specific applications,
Yeah.
like fraud detection.
Right. AI is used to analyze financial transactions and identify suspicious activity
Okay,
to prevent fraud.
that makes sense. What about virtual customer assistants?
Oh, yeah, those AI-powered chatbots you see everywhere.
Yeah.
They handle basic customer inquiries and try to answer questions.
Okay, and medicine.
AI is being used in so many ways in medicine,
Yeah.
like optimizing hospital resources, scheduling things,
Okay.
and it's being used in specific areas like cardiology and neurology.
And it even talks about how AI is being used to assist in complex operations.
That's right. Wow. What about heavy industries?
AI is being used to monitor those huge machines, predict potential failures, and make sure they're operating safely and efficiently.
Okay. Telecommunications.
Telecom companies are using AI to optimize their workforce.
So how does that work?
So they're using it to schedule engineers for service calls in the most efficient way.
That's really smart. Music.
There's a lot of research happening on how AI can be used in music.
Okay.
Things like composition, performance, sound processing.
So AI could be writing the next big hit song.
Maybe.
Okay. And finally, antivirus software.
Antivirus software is increasingly relying on AI to detect new malware threats
Okay.
and improve detection rates.
So it's really everywhere we look.
Pretty much.
It's amazing how much AI is already a part of our lives.
Hmm.
Now, the paper also looks to the future of AI. What are some of the key ideas it brings up?
One fascinating point is that while biological intelligence has limits, computational intelligence doesn't.
So it can just keep growing.
Exactly. And it can grow exponentially.
Wow.
The paper also talks about the capacity of the human brain.
Okay.
which is vast but might not be as efficient as computer systems.
Interesting.
So we might see ourselves relying more and more on computers for complex tasks.
Kind of a shift in how we think about intelligence.
Yeah.
What does the paper say about the future role of AI in technology as a whole?
It basically says that AI is going to become a core part of just about all modern software.
Wow.
It sees it as a revolutionary feat of computer science.
But it also brings up potential risks.
Right. Yes, especially in areas like cybersecurity,
Right.
where AI could be used for both good and bad
A
purposes.
double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So what does the paper say about how we should navigate this future with AI?
It stresses the importance of responsible development and governance.
Okay.
We need to make sure AI is used to benefit humanity.
That's a crucial point. So basically, we've seen that AI is the science of creating intelligent machines.
Right.
It uses all these cool methods like machine learning, NLP, and neural networks.
And it's already having a huge impact on so many industries.
Yeah, from healthcare to finance to even the arts.
Pretty much everywhere.
And as AI keeps advancing, what are some of the big questions we should be asking ourselves? Like, how do we make sure it's used ethically?
That's the key question, isn't it?
It is, and it's a discussion we all need to be part of. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive into AI, Kay.
It's been my pleasure.
And thanks to our listener for being here with us. We hope this is giving you a better understanding of what AI is, what it can do, and what the future might hold.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again, Kay.
Anytime.